Luigi's Mansion 2 is not a bad game by any means, and I feel like it really boils down to a couple problems that a lot of people are having with the game, myself included, being the boss battles and also the stupid mission structure that is forced upon you on this game. But today I really want to focus on the boss battles, because that is one thing to me that I normally really look forward to for both Luigi's Mansion games and Nintendo games in general, and the lack of Portrait Ghost and the Possessor Ghost really didn't possess anything super interesting for me in this game. So I kind of wanted to go through all the boss battles and show how Nintendo could have made them better. Now, fair warning, I had to say this because some people will blow up in the comment section and be like, oh, he used AI. Yes, I will be using AI just to give a reference to kind of what I'm talking about and kind of give you a visualization as to what I'm saying, because no, I don't have art for everything that I need to talk about here. So please just bear with me. Yes, there will be a couple of AI images, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. But without further ado, let's dive into how Nintendo should have handled the boss battles in Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, or you could even say Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. First, I want to start off with a couple of mid-bosses, and this includes pretty much all the poltergeists. There's 3 different variants in the main game, and honestly, this is where I'm just going to say the game needed Portrait Ghosts. We have Portrait Ghosts in the first and the third games, and it definitely needed to be included here. I think this would have fleshed out the mid-bosses a lot better. Instead of walking into a room and seeing a big brain ghost play the piano, or a big brain ghost stand in the middle of a battle arena in the desert, or a big brain ghost chase you in space, it'd been really cool to actually had themed ghosts for each area. And I am going to probably make an entire video talking about what the Portrait Ghost could have been like for Luigi's Mansion 2, so you'll definitely want to be subscribed for that. But right now, I'm just going to be very general and say that there should have at least been some type of, pianist ghost like we've seen in the past, with Melody Pianissimo from Luigi's Mansion 1, or even Amadeus Wolfgeist from Mansion 3. A simple boss like this was handled so well in Mansion 3, where he actually possessed the piano, and I think that's another thing too. I hate that only Possessor Ghosts can possess certain things for boss battles. I wish it was just any ghost, like literally just make a Portrait Ghost that can possess things as well, and you got yourself a really fun boss battle. And to me, Amadeus Wolfgeist was honestly one of the best boss battles in the entire series for me. I absolutely loved what they did with him. The same thing goes for the Clockworks variant of the Poltergeist, which does essentially the same stuff. Instead, now he just kind of whirlwinds in the middle of the stage and tosses bombs at you from the outside. And all you have to do is wait for him to appear at the end of his bomb tossing cycle, and then you can slowly start to take him out. And once again, it's the same designed ghost, just a blue one this time around with the big brain instead of an orange one. And this is once again the problem. I feel like it's also just the theming of the character. This one could have been some type of miner or something to really fit into the underground caverns and caves of the old Clockworks. It'd been cool if he was some type of miner with a pickaxe and throwing things at you. It would have just changed it up a little bit. And the same thing with the space boss battle. Wouldn't it be cool if that Poltergeist was actually like a ghost astronaut or some type of space ghost or something in the sky, or like a space alien that you had to take out by shooting out of the stars, or at least just an astronaut floating around the outside of the asteroid belt would have been really cool, and you had to like shoot them with stars or something. They could have done a lot more than just, once again, Poltergeist again, but this one's stronger, it's the same stuff. Now in the case of the Haunted Sisters, it's like one of the only kind of portrait ghosts within the entire game, even though they look like regular ghosts, just different sizes and shapes and actually have gear on. But yeah, this boss battle had to be one of my least favorite in the entire game, in the entire series. It's just stupid. They just spin around and you have to flash the one that doesn't have the mirror up, but then the other just brutally try to attack you as you're trying to get one of them. And it's just so annoying, where you have to slowly let go and try to get her again, and let go and try to get her again, because it's impossible to hold the suction when they're all swinging their mirrors at you. It'd have been cooler if they actually utilized the mirrors in some capacity. Maybe you had to reflect light off of the mirrors in order to hit one or something. I don't know, they could have come up with something a lot cooler, but this was just truly a letdown. I'm not super disappointed in the boss design overall, it's just the way that the boss is handled in the gameplay side of things. It just wasn't great at all. But let's get into the actual boss battles of the game, the main chapter bosses, and the first one being against the giant spider actually is not bad. And you know what, for the sake of this game, we're just going to keep the Possessor Ghost possessing things, but I feel like it's the things that they possessed in this game that weren't great. But this spider, on the other hand, was a really good first boss. I actually really did enjoy it, and if I was to add anything, I guess they could have had like a giant ghost spider. That would have been a lot cooler, but once again, we're on the train of actually possessing things, and possessing a giant creepy spider in the basement of this house really isn't bad at all. Now, after you take out the possessor ghost, the spider likes to go to a quick chase sequence type of thing where he chases you down the hallway. This would have been really cool if it was actually a bigger sequence, kind of like the King Boo boss fight at the end, where you actually had to run away and dodge things down a hallway, or what I would have preferred is a giant sliding section it would went into, where it warps you through this giant sliding area where you're sliding down a hill, and you have to dodge things like spiders and just pick the right lane or you'll get hit by traps going on the way down, and then you have to flash the spider at the very end as he's sitting down there waiting for you, and this will allow you to go underneath his legs, going to the next phase where it's back to the normal fight that we're used to. This would be very similar to that sliding hill back in the secret mine, and I think that would have worked out really cool as a little intermission thing to really expand the boss battle's length a lot more. Let's not kid ourselves, where the killer staircase is everything but, and it's just extremely boring, not to mention the terrible lead up going up those stupid flights of stairs to reach the boss in the first place. I don't know who it was at Next Level Games that thought it would be a good idea to fight some stairs, but you know what, here we are, and yeah, look at these attacks, it's just so boring. Now, the arena being at the top of the tree was really cool, and I wanted to keep that for this boss battle, but I also wanted to incorporate a mechanic that was used throughout this mansion, and that was sucking up the spiked balls and also using buckets of water. So what I wanted to go up against is maybe the possessor ghost actually possessed a giant Venus flytrap. There's a lot of them in this mansion after all, so maybe there's a giant Venus flytrap in the background and it's your job to hit it with spiked balls, but what you need to do is gain buckets in order to fill with water, as there's water spouts on the left and right sides of the stage. Now, these buckets could come in from ghosts and you have to take them out in order to grab the bucket, but you fill the bucket with water and you have to water the various different vines that are coming out of the floorboards of the stage, and when you do so, it will grow a spiked ball plant, and you can use the spiked ball in order to shoot it into the Venus flytrap's mouth in the background. Now, of course, it will probably auto lock on like it does in the game, but what makes this hard is it'll have vines kind of covering its face in a certain pattern, and you have to time up your shot in order to dodge the vines and shoot the spiked ball into its mouth, which will then drop the Venus flytrap, allowing you to then fight the possessor ghost. Just like that, it's already a 10 times better boss battle. And even if they didn't want to go with the Venus flytrap, I also felt like a giant crow or something would have been very useful, as it seemed like crows were a main emphasis in this game as well. So it'd be the same concept where you're still watering the plant and getting a spiked ball, but now you're shooting a crow out of the sky instead of a Venus flytrap. There were so many different options they could have went with here, and this is just a couple, and I feel like this would have been a lot better actually incorporating a main mechanic of this world into the boss battle itself. The Haunted Clock Tower boss battle wasn't terrible, but it really didn't feel like a boss battle. It was more just of a boss rush that could have been on any mission of the game, and it was kind of weird that they decided to make a whole boss battle out of this thing, and I think they could have took it a step further, where I don't actually mind fighting the actual clock tower, but what if the clock tower itself got possessed and you had to actually fight the entire thing like one giant boss battle? I'm talking about standing in a giant arena or maybe a scaffolding around the outside of the tower. What you had to do is suck up rocks or boulders in the stage and fire them at the glass panel of the clock tower itself. Now, you have to dodge the hands of the clock because they will actually block the rock, but you have to damage the glass by shooting it 2 or 3 times until eventually it shatters, leaving a hole somewhere on the face of the clock. Once you leave a hole, you have to pick up a row bomb and toss it into the hole and flash it through the glass in order for it to shatter the entire glass face of the clock. Tell me that wouldn't be pretty cool. It just honestly would make sense since the row bombs really appear all over the place in this world, and it would be really cool to use them in this capacity. But once you blow that giant clock out of the sky, you eventually open up a giant hole for you to walk in, and then you go inside the clock in order to find and fight the possessor ghost, and then you rinse and repeat. I think this would have been a lot better boss battle than what we've gotten, and fighting the actual clock tower like this, like one giant boss battle, would have been super cool. I'm someone that actually did not hate the ice monster boss fight, and I know a lot of people hated it because it's pure difficulty when it comes to actually aiming your bomb shots and hitting the pieces of ice off of him. And I don't hate this, but the boss design is pretty weird that they said out of all the things that the ghost could possess, he's just gonna possess a column of ice. Like, yeah, that was pretty weird. So here's what I want to do instead. I want to fight a giant possessed snowman, but instead of sliding down a hill and shooting downward, we're sliding down a hill and shooting back upward as the snowman is chasing us like a giant avalanche down the hill. And we have to keep his distance by hitting him with bombs and also hitting the things that he's tossing at us as well so we don't take damage. Now the only way to end this phase is to time up a bomb shot by shooting a row bomb that's stuck in his snowball as he's rolling down the hill at you. Meaning when he rolls over the row bomb, it'll be a specific part of his body that you have to shoot in order to blow him up, which will then initiate the fight phase. Now the snowman is positioned in the middle of the arena, and you have to use a fire log in order to slowly melt parts of his body, and you have to find the part of his body that has a giant chunk of ice sticking out of it by melting each side and figuring out where it's at. When you find it, you'll see a row bomb sticking out of the ice, and once you flash it, it'll detonate and blow up that section of the snowman. Of course, then allowing you to attack the possessor ghost and then going back through the chase phase on the hill again. But what's so interesting about all these potential boss fights is there's so much potential. I mean, for a snowman, there was even a mission where you had to shoot rocks and coals as his mouth and eyes. I mean, there's so many stuff that they could do just like this, where you actually had to shoot hot coals in order to melt specific parts of his body or something. But a haunted snowman just seems a lot better than a haunted sheet of ice, you know? Now, as far as Boolossus goes, I know still some people don't like this boss battle, but honestly, I think it's the best version of Boolossus yet, which is not saying a lot because there's not many, but it's still really good. I actually really did enjoy it. It was really satisfying slamming the boo into the front of the train in order to pop it, and then shooting the mini boos into the train parts. Now, I feel like the only thing that would have fixed this boss battle a lot better would be the track system itself, where it was kind of shaped like a trapezoid. It's pretty strange. I wish it was just like one big circle around Luigi, making it easier to shoot the ghost, but I think anything else that they could have added was maybe like a section where you're on the train and you're like even smaller, and you have to make your way from the back to the front of the train, taking out the engineer before, you know, jumping into this part of the boss battle. But I always would love just more phases in boss battles. I think it just adds some height to it. So yeah, at the end of the day, this is a really good boss battle. I wouldn't change too much. So with Haunted Knights, I'm about to get a little crazy, so please bear with me. So I like the idea of the Knights, but the problem is it's already kind of been implemented at the very beginning of this chapter, and you did it with pretty much basic enemies. This just feels like more of that, and I wish they kind of added a little something to this first phase. For instance, maybe the Knights had elemental properties, like fire or ice, and if you tried to touch the carpets that they were standing on, it would burn or freeze your hands from the poltergust touching it. So maybe you had to either get a bucket of water to put out the fire knight or a fire log to burn out the ice knight before you could even suck the carpet from underneath their feet. That would have added just a little bit more depth. But for the giant knight, I wanted a lot more. It's really cool that you have to trip both of its giant feet, but what if there was more after that? Meaning, once you trip both feet, he fell down on his butt, which still left his whole upper body, and you had to fly up to the top part of the mansion as the ceiling is now broke in order to fight him. How would you do that? Well, you'd use a ball balloon in order to fly up to the next floor, where both of his arms are kind of sitting on scaffolds, where you have to fly to the right and left sides in order to do some type of task or something to take out both of its arms. Now, there'll still be certain attacks, like with his sword arm, he'll still be able to stab you out of the air if you're not careful, so you have to fly up carefully to the left and right sides in order to take out both arms, and then eventually flying up to the head, where the helmet will be open and you can fly inside the helmet in order to fight the possessor ghost one final time. I think that would have been so much cooler and more climactic. Ooh, imagine if there were like controls inside the helmet where Luigi can then pilot the giant knight and then like smash the whole mansion and crush everything and try to chase after the ghosts and stuff, like all giant Luigi style. That would have been awesome. Yeah, I just wish we did more than trip him. It's still a good boss battle, but it definitely could have done a little bit more. But outside of the possessions themselves, I feel like the possessor ghosts are just boring, where they do the same thing every single time. They charge up and rush at you, and all you have to do is move out the way. Some of them have different attributes, like it'll shoot electricity out of their butts, or, you know, they'll have portals to travel through or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's just slow charges toward you, and all you have to do is barely walk out of the way. So they definitely could have improved those boss battles themselves a little bit better. And finally, I want to touch on the King Boo boss fight, where I feel like this is definitely the best boss fight out of the entire series. Yeah, I truly do believe that. It's even better than 1 and 3's bosses. But with this said, I still think there's room for improvement. I love the whole section of running through the mansion and trying to get away from King Boo, but I feel like they should have actually started the battle with this, so that way there's 3 different segments of this instead of 2. But I feel like they should have also changed this up as well by each time giving you a different mansion to run through. Instead of just running straight to the right, you could either run to the left or up some stairs or down some stairs, and there was different areas to run, whether you're sliding down a hill in certain situations, but instead of just running directly to the right every single time, they could have made this slightly different. And with the Battle of King Boo, the idea of spike balls falling from the sky was kind of repetitive. I feel like the first time it would have been pretty cool to lead him to get hit by a spike ball, but then maybe the second time you actually have to shoot him with the spiked ball, and there's like different clones of him with fake ones, kind of like Luigi's Mansion 3, where you have to shoot the real one with the spike ball that's floating outside the arena, and then for the third phase, you have to shoot him with the spike ball, but you can't shoot him head on, or he'll disappear and dodge it, where instead you have to use one of the portals surrounding the stage, and maybe you shoot it in one portal and it comes out another one, and blindside hits him from the back. That would be pretty cool, and kind of think of the Fawful boss fight for this, where there's the various different portals, and you have to keep an eye on which one leads to what, and that's what you'll have to do here, is shoot your spike ball in the right portal so it comes out of another one and hits them from behind, and you have to kind of line them up and lead them that way. That'd be really cool. So yes, I think there's various different ways that the team at Next Level Games and Nintendo could have improved the boss battles in Luigi's Mansion 2, and I hope that they continue to improve them because Luigi's Mansion 3's boss battles were so much better. So thankfully it looks like they've learned their lesson with some of them, and yeah, if you're gonna have Possessor Ghosts, have them possess some very interesting things, like the pirate ship from Luigi's Mansion 3. I mean, that was so cool. Yeah, they need more like that. But let me know in the comments down below if you agree with these ideas, or if you have your own ideas, definitely comment them and I would love to read them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe before you head out if you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more like this. And thank you guys so much for tuning in, and like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.